everyone, my name is Amber, welcome back to my channel. This is my May wrap up. If you can hear any noises, it's because I've got the conservatory window open because it is boiling today, thank goodness, and there are flies coming in. My neighbours are outside, so I'm just gonna have to deal with it. I read a massive 18 books in May, although a lot of them were short stories. I haven't added up any like pages or anything. I listened to 18 hours of audiobooks. My average rating was 3.22, so not the best, not as bad as April, but not as good as February, which was 3.52, and that is my highest average rating of the year so far. I'm fine with it, I don't really mind. I'm not going to go into all the stats from this past month because I will be talking about all of my quarterly stats at the end of June. So starting off, at the beginning of the month, I did do his 24-hour readathon, which lasted from the 30th of April into the 1st of May. So I read a lot of books for that because I finished the majority of the books on the 1st of May. I read The Mistake, The Score and The Goal, not all for the readathon, but I wanted to group them all together. This is a series of new adult contemporary books by Al Kennedy. I enjoyed The Mistake, which I gave 3 stars. That's book 2 in the off-campus series, and then I gave The Score 3 stars and The Goal 2 stars. So the basic premise of this series is that the characters are all in college and each book follows a new couple. The guys of each couple are all on the same, I think, ice hockey team. I'm fairly sure it's ice hockey. It doesn't really show up much in the books, and we see them get together with new partners, and the books are always dual point of view as well, so you see the female and the male perspectives. I thought most of them were just okay. I really didn't like The Goal because I found it very boring, and I didn't like either of the main characters. I feel like the 2 in this one felt more of an afterthought compared to the other main characters of the series. This is a shame because I was really in the mood for some new adult romance and books set in college, and I was honestly expecting to like them more considering the hype, but I didn't. I might read the spin-off series just to see how it goes because I think the first book was free on Kindle for a little bit and I got that, and then the other books I can probably find for quite cheap, but I'm not in a rush to read them because I'm not sure I'll enjoy them after not really liking the 3rd book in this series. Also for the 24-hour readathon, I read The Sanatorium, which I gave 4 stars. I really enjoyed this one. This one is a thriller book. It's set in the Swiss Alps. The main character is going to this old sanatorium which is now renovated into a hotel for her brother's, I think, engagement party. The details are a bit foggy because no party actually happens because her brother's fiance goes missing. I really enjoyed this one because I liked the background with all of the characters. The author did a really good job of balancing the current goings on the thriller side of things and the background for the main character who had a troubled past. She was struggling also with her career and wasn't really sure which direction she should be going in. So there were a lot of layers to this one, which was unusual for a thriller book. It's the first part of a series, and I have the next book, The Retreat, on my Kindle from NetGalley, so I'll be reading that probably, well, definitely in June because I'm going to be starting it once I've recorded this video. I would highly recommend this one, very thrilling. The twists weren't anything amazing, but I loved the isolated setting, the hotel on the mountain and the risk of an avalanche happening. It's exactly the same reason I loved One by One by Ruth Ware, so love this one, would highly recommend it. I then read Ariadne, which I didn't enjoy. I gave this one 2 stars and I'm so upset because this is a beautiful cover, absolutely stunning. This was actually the first book that I bought this year, and I've been really wanting to get more into Greek retellings, particularly of the feminist variety. I was honestly hoping for something kind of Madeline Miller-esque, but unfortunately this book was just kind of a copy and paste from the original tale. Ariadne and her sister, who it also follows, I can't remember her sister's name, Phaedra maybe? It followed both of them. Ariadne was kind of stuck on an island for the entire book and didn't really do much, and Phaedra did a lot, but then I didn't like the ending to her story. I don't want to go into spoilers for this, but I don't feel like it was very, what's the word, not considered. I'm honestly struggling to think of the word. I've tried looking up but I can't think of it, but it wasn't very kind of well settled. Honestly, I'm struggling. I don't like the way that it all wrapped up, basically. So this was a huge disappointment. I'll be unhauling this very soon in my next unhaul video. I read Luck of the Titanic, which I read in a reading vlog based around Titanic themed books. I really enjoyed this one. I gave it 4 stars. So it's YA historical. It's about 2 siblings who are half Chinese and half British, and the main character Val has gone to find her brother Jamie, who is heading to South America on the Titanic. So Val, also boards the Titanic, and she has to try to convince her brother that they should head to the US. The only problem is in the US they're not letting Chinese people in, and being half Chinese and definitely looking half Chinese, they're going to struggle to get into the country, so they need to be sponsored basically. I really enjoyed this book for the thriller aspect. It wasn't really a thriller book at all. Seeing the build up to what we know was going to happen on the 14th of April was quite thrilling to me, and it was also very upsetting obviously. I felt a huge connection to the main character and her little group of people that she found on the Titanic. There were hints of a queer relationship as well, although it didn't really explicitly say any of that. The only thing I didn't like about this book was that it didn't really focus on this Chinese Immigration Act that the US had. I didn't really know why they introduced this law and why they weren't letting Chinese people into the country, and it didn't really explore any of that, and I was really interested in that from an historical standpoint, so that would have been good to have seen more of that rather than just seeing how it affected the characters. I don't think it was very well balanced, but overall a very good book, and I gave it 4 stars. Also for my Titanic themed reading vlog I read Dead Silence, and I gave this 5 stars. It was fantastic. I read it from NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, and I'm going to be buying myself a physical copy when it comes out in paperback, because honestly it was great. So this is sci-fi horror. It's about a main character whose name I can't remember because I'm terrible with names. She is the team leader on a ship that travels into space and fixes basically what are communications beacons, and they're on the very edge of this communication sort of area, and they can't go any further without losing communication with their supervisors. While they're on their final mission, they receive a distress call, which is a very old distress call, meaning that the ship that they are receiving it from must be very old. And then they go and look into it, and it turns out to be this luxury cruise liner that went missing 20 years ago. The premise for this one was absolutely enthralling. I loved it. The setting was also brilliant. The author writes absolutely fantastic atmospheric scenes. I was super creeped out right from the start, because when the characters discovered the ship, they decide to fly around it in their own ship and see what's going on, and they can sort of see into some of the windows, and just that build up and that sort of feeling of dread was absolutely brilliant. So I love this book so much. I love the way that it resolved. I would highly recommend this one. I then listened to In an Instant, which is YA contemporary. This one is about a family who are involved in a car accident. The main character dies, her head gets severed in the car crash, and then she is narrating the story from then on, and she sees her family as they struggle to survive the snowstorm and struggle to find help, and then it follows the family afterwards as well to show how they're coping with grief and loss and also trauma of what happened to them. I gave this one 4 stars, although I've said in many reading vlogs I don't really know how I feel about the representation of disability in this book. The main character's brother is disabled mentally. He has severe learning difficulties, and I don't think it's ever said what exactly he has, but it's very clear he needs a lot of care and attention from his family, and a lot of the characters both in the family and outside of the family don't like this. They don't like the fact that he has kind of uprooted their lives in their opinions. The main character really liked her brother and loved him, as did her father, and they were very supportive. The bits that I didn't like was, one, the main character called her brother simple, and you don't do that here in the UK. It's like using the R word. You don't call disabled people simple. And 2, I didn't necessarily like how a lot of the characters felt that the brother impacted their lives negatively, and there wasn't really any nuance to it. They just kept complaining about him, saying they wish he wasn't there, and no one ever really called them out. Sometimes the narrator would, but obviously she was dead so the main characters couldn't really hear her at all and be told what they were saying was really not cool. So yeah, I'm not really sure about that side of things, but I did give this book 4 stars because I liked the snowy atmosphere. I think that's something that I tend to really like in books somehow, because I hate the snow in real life. There is a sequel to this one coming out. I think it's actually already out, and it follows the family years and years later to see how they're currently coping. I probably won't be reading that because I don't really have much interest in knowing how they're doing now, but maybe one day. Then I read The Black Prison, which is an epic fantasy book. I didn't like this one, so I gave it 2 stars. It's a real shame because I have had this on my shelf for 4 years and I thought I was going to love it. I bought the sequels, but I didn't like it. It dragged on. The main characters were boring. I don't really have loads to say about it because it was boring. The first 100 pages were intriguing and it was a bit of a slow start, so I kind of forgave them for that because I knew that for an epic fantasy book that is this long, the author had to spend some time building up the world and letting us get to know the characters, but there's no need for this to drag on so much. And the main characters were, like I said, boring. So yeah, not a good book. Wouldn't recommend, won't be carrying on with the series. I then read The Push, which is a thriller book. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's about generational trauma, basically. basically. The main character is a mother. It talks about the main character's relationship with her daughter as well as her own mother, and then her mother's relationship with her mother. So it's 4 generations of girls who have tricky relationships with their mothers or daughters. I thought this was handled really, really well. I really enjoyed it. I didn't like the ending. It was meant to be a bit of a twist, and I would compare this to We Need to Talk About Kevin. We Need to Talk About Kevin definitely handled this kind of twist better, and that's all I'm going to say about this one. I read Die For Me, which I've had on my shelf for ages, and I'm really glad I finally read it. I gave this one 3 stars. It's way paranormal, about kind of zombies, angels, that sort of thing. Complete opposite paranormal creatures, but yeah, I liked it. It's set in Paris. The main character moves there and finds a guy who is involved in paranormal stuff, and that's all I'm gonna say because you don't really need to know much about the plot. It was enjoyable, it was fast paced. I won't be carrying on with the series because I don't own it, but if I did own it I probably would carry on, but I don't feel the need to go out and buy the series. I probably would have really liked this when I was younger. I read Private Label, which I received from the publisher in exchange for an honest review. I gave this one 3.5 stars. It's about a main character. Well, there are 2 main characters. It's told from 2 points of view. The first one is Serene, who is the daughter of a single mother who runs a fashion company, and Serene's mother is diagnosed with cancer. There's also Lian, who is the second main character. He is an immigrant from Beijing in China, and he's joined the school which is predominantly full of white students. He's dealing with racism and bullying, and the 2 get to know each other while Serene is dealing with what is happening to her mother and trying to save her mother's fashion company. I really, really enjoyed this one. The 2 main characters were very, very well done, and I honestly don't really have any complaints. It's just it wasn't a favourite book of mine and it wasn't amazing. So a very, very good YA contemporary, and I would recommend it if it sounds like something you're interested in. And then the next few books are ones that I listened to on Audible because they were free through Kindle Unlimited. This sort of like a collection. I can't remember what the collection is called, but it's kind of like a short sci-fi novella collection. I'll put the name of the collection on the screen. So the first one I read was Randomised by Andy Weir. I gave this one 2 stars. It really wasn't very good, and it's not a good start to the collection. I can't actually remember what this one was about. And then I read The Last Conversation by Paul Tremblay. Really enjoyed this one. Again, these are all sci-fi books. I gave this one 3.5 stars. I don't want to say too much about it because it's a novella, so that's all I'm gonna say there. I read Emergency Skin by N.K. Jemisin. I gave this one 5 stars. I never do that for novellas or short stories, but this was fantastic. So this is about a guy who's descended from humans who left Earth due to the climate crisis, and they've been raised on another planet. So he has come back to Earth to do some research, and he comes across a group of people living on Earth, and he didn't think humans still lived there, but apparently they do, and it's about him discovering what's going on there. Really, really enjoyed this one. The themes were very in your face, but very, very good. I probably listen to it again, to be honest. The next one was Arc by Veronica Roth. I gave this one 3 stars. This was about the world ending and the main character staying behind to document plant life. Really good, really enjoyed it. And then I listened to You Have Arrived at Your Destination. This one was very interesting. It's kind of about eugenics, but on an extreme level. And again, I don't really want to say much about it. I gave it 3 stars. And then the final book that I read in May was The Maid. I started this one back in January. It was a very popular mystery book when it first came out in January, and now I think the reviews have sort of petered out. And yeah, I gave this one 3 stars, I think. 2.5 stars because it was just a bit boring, and I didn't love the main character. I didn't really love the representation of what I think was supposed to be autism. Yeah, I was just a bit bored overall. I think the publisher and Book of the Month did a really good job of hyping this one up, because otherwise I don't think it would have gotten much hype. The hype definitely hasn't carried on throughout the months. So those are all the books that I read in May. Let me know if you've read any of these, what you thought of them. Thank you for watching, and I'll be back soon with another video. Bye!